All right, Shalom. First and foremost, want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harakah Kodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone Wu Well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect, the Bayat, Dawadah, the house of David, right? So let me show you this article real quick, and as you can see, right, the World Economic Forum, right, the 666 going between the circles, all right, okay? That's what makes the six, all three sixes right there. All right, so let's go to the word economic. Okay, so economics, right? Art of managing of a household, and that's what they're doing, right? To push off what this new chip, this authoritarian, totalitarian government, right? One world order, right? A new world order, a digital enslavement. All right, so to speak. Okay, a digital enslavement of the people, transhumanism. You see, merging man with machine. See, smart cities, surveillance, monitoring, analysis, reporting, and tracking, all camera surveillance, right? Flock cameras and so on and so forth, right? And economics has to do with that microchip, meaning to get rid of the money. And this is what they were talking about and doing all their summit meetings and things of that nature, which is a part of their sustainable development goals, right? To chip everybody on the planet. You see, under a digital system, right? 16.9. You see? Okay? It says the art of managing a household, perhaps from French economique, right? See economics, right? Economics, meaning science of wealth, is from 1792, right? So let's go down to economic right here. Adjective pertaining to management of household, perhaps shortened from economical, right? Or else from French economique, right? It says, or directly from Latin, economicus, right? Domestic economy, right? What is that? Okonomikos, right? And that's in the Greek, okonomikos, right? Practiced in the management of household or family. Also the name of a trustee by the ex-ofan on the duties of domestic life, right? Hence, frugal or thrifty. Okay, household management, meaning relating to the science of economics, is in 1835 and now is the main sense of economical, retaining to the older one of characterized by thrift. Okay, so that's what economics is, man. You see, and it's money management, and what they're going to change this new system to, a digital one. With an RFID microchip for track, trace, and control, you become the UPC, the Universal Product Code, right? You become the scanner, all right? Okay? You understand? That's what the word World Economic Forum means, okay? They're speaking about money, controlling money situations. All right, and that's what their main goals and meetings is all about. What do you think the SDG is all about? The Sustainable Development Goals, right? And the Gavi Alliance, and so on and so forth. And matter of fact, let me do this here, real quick, right? Let me bring this out because I always bring this out. All right, hold on. Lock it, brothers. Hold on. Give me 1 second. All right. You see? Give me 1 second. So it says the SDG, Sustainable Development Goal 16.917, which aims to provide legal identity for all, including birth registration by 2030. And this is their goals. This fundamental objective is driven by a legal identity agenda task force, okay? It says, which coordinates multiple UN, United Nations agencies like UNDP and UNICEF and DISA, right, to assist member states, right? The UN Legal Identity Agenda unites 13 UN entities and World Bank to provide unified strategy for birth registration and identity management. Okay, it says forces the the United Nations, right? DP. Okay, it says forces are strengthening the capacity of the member states to integrate legal identity in national development plans. All right, so that's just a little bit of what's going on here, man. All right, and the World Bank. You see, the World Bank connects with the SDG 16.9 to provide legal identity for all, including birth registration by 2030. It says through its identification for development, right, ID4D, okay, incentive, the bank views official identification as an absolute prerequisite for eliminating extreme poverty, enabling financial inclusion, and depriving safety nets, and empowering vulnerable populations. You see, so there you have it, man. That's what the World Economic Forum is all about. The World Bank, the Gavi Alliance, right, with the vaccinations and so on and so forth. Through who? Bill Gates and his wife, so his ex-wife or so-called ex-wife, right, Melinda Gates. You see, all right, okay, and that's just a little bit there, right? But let's go into here. Okay, let's go into this article, right? We can get out of there, right? It says the real race in digital finance is not about the money. Okay, so this says here, let's read some of this article. It says Europe has a trust advantage when it comes to digital finance thanks to strong regulations and governance. The EU can learn from these economics like India and Brazil in building out the bloc's wider digital finance ecosystem and rolling out the digital euro. You see, it says as an evident of the digital euro approaches, questions over interoperability, privacy, and regulatory frameworks, and more remain. Right, trust in the Liguana, Friends of European financial policy from the General Data Protection Regulation, the GDPR, right? You see, it says to markets in crypto assets regulation. Okay, it says governance and accountability have been the foundation of how Europe approaches financial infrastructure, serving as the floor on which everything else stands rather than ceiling on what is possible. As Europe advances its digital euro ambitions with the European Central Bank targeting a plot launch in the second half of 2027. And see, this is what they're going to roll out that chip eventually, man. They're going to roll out that chip. That RFID microchip, radio frequency identification, and you got the near field communication microchip. All right. It says it's possible for a full rollout as early as 2029. Right? Because see, this is their goals. You see, the same commitment endures. All right, which makes the moment distant. Is that Europe? Okay. Is that Europe is no longer simply setting the rules for an existing market. It is building the market itself from scratch in public, with these values being tested in real time. Right? It says distinct, right? Okay, it says trust in financial infrastructure is not given, it is earned, and incrementally, all right, through millions of ordinary interactions that work especially as promised, and through the harder moments when they don't. The real test is whether the institutions governing the digital euro can sustain the integrity which technology involves beyond its design. It says when the use nobody's predicted before the ones that matter most, and when the public notices the gap between promise and reality long before regulators do. All right. it says learning from early pioneers. It says experience from the economics provide valuable insights of Europe's digital currency development. India's digital plot, right, launched in late 2022, offers a good example of regulatory learning in practice. The Reserve Bank of India (RBI) structured the rollout across two tracks with the wholesale pilot, right, for government Slovakia pilot, right, it says rollout across two tracks with the wholesale plot, right, or pilot for government securities settlement and retail pilot for border use. It says both were designed and controlled experiments rather than the incentives aimed in the immediate scale. Participation will intentionally limit to 9 banks in the wholesale segment and select group of users and merchants in retail before expanding to 17 banks and roughly 6 million users by early 2025. You see, importantly, the RBI used the time to change the tech based on what they saw on the ground when they realized the need of inclusivity. They added offline payments for people without stable internet. When they saw the potential for the better social spending, they built in a programmable transfers for government distributions. Slovakia. It says neither edition was in the original design, but reflects an institution willing to let evidence reshape its assumptions, which precisely how regulatory architecture, right, earns credibility over time. On the other side of the world, Brazil approached open finance like an engineer constructing a tower, building the foundation first and only adding new floors once the structure proved it could hold the weight. In 2021, Brazil's central bank sequenced the rollout in the distant phases, right? Distinct phases, Slovakia. It says within the first year, they had roughly 5 million accounts connected. Today's Brazil operates one of the world's most comprehensive open finance ecosystems with more than 60 million accounts built alongside PEX, the country's real-time payment system that has rapidly become the backbone of everyday digital transactions. The architecture succeeded because expansion follows stability at each phase. That kind of sequencing demands institutional patience to reset the urge to build faster than the foundations permit. Trust acclimated the same way incrementally, transactionally, through millions of original or ordinary interactions that worked as promised. All right, so let me see. We got some more. We got a lot here. All right, we got a little bit more to get through. Okay, it says the regulatory frontier. Both examples reflect the kind of incentive evidence-based supervision highlighted in the World Economic Forum's white papers. The regulatory frontier oversight that involves through structured learning rather than crisis response. As the digital euro moves through its preparation phase, key governance questions remain. How supervised implementation will translate into standards, how interoperability will be maintained across Europe's fragmented financial landscape, how privacy commitments will be enforced in practice, and how consumer trust will be built and measured, and how regulatory frameworks will adapt as the technology and its use evolves. These are the questions the white papers seek to address, It identifies five design domains, including boundaries, evidence-based learning, market access, shared infrastructure, and adaptive rules, which determine whether regulation enables or innovation or stales it. Taken together, they describe the institutional capacity that allows regulation to move with the innovation rather than chase it. The power of consensus. Political reality cannot be ignored. Neither India or Brazil had to negotiate with 26 other financial systems to move forward as Europe must. The European Bank's digital euro uh, participation has demonstrated real regulatory learning at the product level, but the supervisory architectural surrounding it still depends on a political alignment between the Commission and the European Parliament and the national authorities, and an effort that remains unfinished. In Europe, building consensuses is the primary mechanisms for ensuring long-term integrity. That process is slower and more frustrating than many would prefer. It is also the reason European frameworks tend to carry a legitimacy that faster built ones sometimes have to retrofit a new race. It says this is where trust becomes deceiveth, right? It says it is not a sentiment, right? A sentiment. It is built in support that shows up in the moments that really matter. Whether a system that crashes on a Friday afternoon is restored by Friday evening, whether the privacy promises match the actual happens to the people's data in the real world. And that's why they built up these data centers, man. Data centers, blockchains, right? And all these things of that nature is to track, trace, and control you. A blockchain stores everything on it. You see? Your medical records, your history records, your criminal records, everything. Okay? It's stored on that blockchain. Your transaction records. Your transactions as you go out and make purchases, what through that RFID microchip, which is going to be hits with the 6G network, right? Which is high frequencies of radiation, which is going to cause grievous sores. Okay? It says, where we at? It says people do not adapt new tech because it is innovative. They adapt because they are convinced it will not fail. It will not fail them when it matters the most. The kind of integrity takes years to build and can be lost in a single afternoon. It says Europe's strength is not its speed, it is integrity. While other jurisdictions may prioritize the efficiency of the process, Europe's opportunity lies in the power of the digital handshake. The real victory will not be measured by the adoption rates and transaction speeds, but by rather the digital euro becomes the world's most trusted digital ecosystem. It says in the end, the most successful digital currency will not be the fastest, but the one that proves it can protect its citizens even as the technology changes. The real competition is over who can build a regulatory architect resilience enough to govern the future without breaking the public trust. Okay, so as you know it right there, right? So let's get into some scriptures, right? Let's get into Psalms. All right, the second chapter in the first verse. Let's read it in the KJV first. It says, "Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and their rulers take counsel together against the Lord Yahweh and against His anointed one, which is Yahushai, right? Saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh, and the Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall He speak unto them in His wrath, and vex them in His sore displeasure." You see? Okay? All right? So matter of fact, we're going to read it in NLT, and then I'm going to go into this one where it mentions Yahushua, right? Okay? When you read down here, the anointed one, right? His anointed is talking about Yahushua right here in this verse, okay? It says, why are the nations so angry? And why do they waste their time with futile plans? The kings of the earth prepare for battle, and the rulers plot together against the Lord Yahweh and against his anointed one, that's Yahweh. Let us break their chains, and they cry, and free ourselves from slavery to Yahweh. But the one who rules in heaven laughs. The Lord Yahweh scoffs at them. Then in anger he rebukes them, terrifying them with his furious fury. Right, so let's go over here real quick. Let's go into the AMP. Let's see if they got it, because I know they mentioned it in the AMP. Let's see if they mentioned, because they mentioned the Hamashiach in the AMP, which is Yahweh Shai. All right. See? Right there. Right? You see? It's anointed, the David, which is the king, the Messiah, the Hamashiach. Okay? That's all I wanted to show you. All right? But that's what that's talking about. Okay? It's talking about Yahweh Shai in that area. All right, so now let's go over to Psalm, the 10th chapter. Right? Psalms, the 10th chapter. Let's go to the 3rd verse. Right? It says, reading the KJV, it says, for the wicked boasted of his heart's desire. What is their mind's desire? A new world order to chip everybody, enslave everybody on the planet. Okay? The enslavement of everybody on the planet. All right? It says, his heart's desire, and boasteth and blesseth the covenants whom the Lord abhorreth. Right? NLT, it says, for they brag about their evil desires, and they praise the greedy, and curse the Lord Yahweh. You see? Damn devils. All right? Let's go into Habakkuk. Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. Right? And the 3rd verse. You see? It says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, and it will not tarry. Right? And this thing is not going to tarry. We living in the last days, man. All right? This prophecy is about to come to pass right in front of you people's faces, man. And why these other camps are not speaking about it? Why? Because they're not men of the Lord. You see? You got to understand. You got to be able to have discernment about who the true men of the Lord is. All right, and what they're teaching you. Okay, let's read it over in. Let's go down here and read verse 5 first. It says, "Yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, but who enlargeth." It says, "Who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people." Okay, let's go back up and read verse 3. For the vision is a future time. It describes the end, and it will be fulfilled. If it seems slow in coming, wait patiently, for it will surely take place, and it will not be delayed. You see, and it ain't going to be delayed. All right. It says, wealth is treacherous, and the ignorant are never at rest. You see, in the arrogant, Salakia, it says are never at rest. They open their mouths as wide as the grave, and like death, they are never satisfied. In their greed, they have gathered up many nations and swallowed many people. You see? All right. So let's go over to Revelation 13. All right? Revelation 13. Revelation 13. We'll just get right to it. Verse 16. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark. That mark right there is Karagba. Okay, we'll go into it real quick. All right, we'll go into it. You know, you got to show Jake. Okay, you got to show Jake, because they're absolutely damn stupid. All right, brain cells is fried to a fricassee, man. Okay, Karagma. Let's play it.
Strong's G 5480. Charagma. Charagma.
Now let's go into it. A stamp or an imprinted mark of a mark stamped on the forehead or the right hand of the badge of the followers of the Antichrist. And there's many Antichrists, man. All right, or many anti-Hamashiachs. Okay, I should say. All right. It says the mark branded upon horses. Right. When you brand something, when you brand an animal or cattle, you signify with your brand that you own it. Okay. What do you think farmers do when they receive cattle, right? And they take care of it and raise it up before they end up actually slaughtering it. They put a brand upon them. They mark it, right? You see, with a branding tool. And that's what's going to be marked upon the people, right, with that chip. You see, it says the mark branded upon horses, thin carved sculpture, graven work of idolatrous images. Okay, a scratch, right? It says charagma from the same a scratch or etching, i.e., stamp, a badge of servitude or sculptured figure, graving work. Right. Let's go over here. This is the word karax. You see, and that's the palisade or the needle that's going to inject that RFID microchip under your skin, which is sinews and tissues, man. All right, a pale stake or palisade, or a rampart, karax, right? It says pales between which the stones, trees, and timbers and heaped and packed together. But anyway, right? It says a sharpened to a point, a keen, right? Through the idea of scratching, a stake, i.e., by implication, palisade, rampart. There you go. Okay? Now let's go back here and read this here. Right? And he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell. Right? Buying and selling will make you a part of the system. Right? It makes you a part of the economic system. You see? Okay? The economic system of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, universal basic income, all right, which will be received monthly. You see? All right? Okay? Of a UPC, universal product code, right? You see? Those 10, because see, there's 10 digits in the universal product code. There's 10 digits that they run by. All right? You see? Because I deal with this every day at my job. All right? So I know what I'm talking about. You see? It says, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that hath the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom, let him that haveth understanding, right? And I showed you about the 666 in the World Economic Forum. And they have it all over this place. That's how we know the man of sin, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, the devil, right? That this is what it's talking about, all right? It says, here is wisdom, let him that haveth understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, okay? Revelation 16:2, you take that chip, you're going to suffer the grievous sores that's going to come with the high frequencies of radiation according to 6G, right? You see? Terahertz, high frequencies of terahertz, right? Radiation, all right? Okay? That's why you ain't supposed to be wearing no goddamn wireless headphones in your ears, man. That's scrambling up your brain like eggs, man. Okay? Get you some wire headphones, man. Okay, not no damn wireless. You get you some wire headphones, man. That has wires with it, man. Because it's not ran off of the high frequencies of radiation, man, frying your brain cells to a fricassee, man. All right? Revelation 6, and them smartwatches too, man. Get rid of them damn smartwatches. Don't be wearing no damn smartwatch on you. That's all connected. Right? That's free. That's why you'll see an imprint or a dent into your hand when you take, or your arm when you take that damn watch off, man. Because that's ran off of wireless, man. Don't be wearing none of that garbage, man. That's all garbage. You see? All right? It says this right here. Revelation 16:2, it says, and the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore. That sore is Hellkos, right? Okay? Upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image, right? You see? Now, when you go into your settings in your phone, man, It speaks about what? It speaks about these things, man. Okay? With wireless and high frequencies of radiation, man. All right? It says, right? Matter of fact, let's go into that word soar. Right? Which I explained to you.
Strong's G 1668. Helkos. Helkos.
Helkos, a womb, especially a womb producing a discharged pus, right? A sore or an ulcer. Okay? See, an ulcer as drawn together, sore. All right? Now let's jump down to verse 10. Right? It says, and the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness, right? Full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. Matter of fact, let's get this over in the NLT. Right? Verse number 10. You see? It says, and gnawed their tongues for pain. All right? And blasphemed the power, Yahweh, of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deeds. You see? Repented not of their evil works, right? So let's read it over here. It says in the NLT, it says, then the fifth angel poured out his bowl on the throne of the beast, and his kingdom was plunged into darkness. Okay? His subjects, right? Subject means slaves, right? Ground their teeth in anguish, and they cursed the power Yahweh of heaven for their pains and sores, but they did not repent of their evil deeds and turn to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai. Right? All right, so let me get my last scripture in Revelation, the 14th chapter. You take that chip, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai going to destroy you, man. All right, and that's all I'm going to tell you right then and there, straight up plain. Okay? You will be obliterated by ICBM missiles, right? Fire and brimstone, and by the concentrated fire of the chariots from Yahushua and the angels. Okay? It says in the third, read over in the KJV first. It says, and the third angel followed them with a loud, them saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahweh, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, righteous anger, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever, and they have no rest, day nor night, who worship the beast in his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints, and here are they that keep the commandment of Yahweh and the faith of Yahushua. Right, so let's read it over in the NLT. Okay? It says, then the third angel followed them, shouting, anyone who worships the beast in his statue, or who accepts his mark, or the mark on the forehead or on the hand, must drink the wine of Yahweh's anger, and it has been poured full strength into the Yahweh's cup of wrath. And they will be tormented with fire and burning sulfur, right? Which Sodom and Gomorrah, there was found sulfur over in that land because the Heavenly Father had took the elements, put them together, and brought it down and burned that place. And sulfur was found over there. Thus, sulfur was found over in Sodom and Gomorrah, the neighboring cities. Okay? It says, and tormented with fire and burning sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and the Lamb. So guess what's gonna be in those missiles? Sulfur. All right? Showing you that we have the truth, man. It says the smoke of their torment will, and this is Babylon the Great, right? So this is Rome all over again. This is Sodom, spiritually Sodom in Egypt. Why is it Babylon the Great? Go outside and look at your house and see the pyramid over top of your house, man. Okay? You see? It says the smoke of their torment will rise forever and ever, and they will have no relief day or night, for they have worshipped the beast and his statue and have accepted the mark of his name. This means that Yahweh's holy people must endure persecution patiently obeying his commandments and maintaining their faith in Yahushua. You see? So, right there, we're going to give it all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Marakah Quadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect, the Bayat Dawadah, the house of David, Kwam Yasha Allah, Abad Babal, repent ye, for the kingdom of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is at hand. Shalom.